is the causality of mankind controlled by some transcendental entity of time and space. No one would be able to know. But from perspective, stories like Berserk, one of my favorite mangas that's ever touched serialization or existence, can show one man's struggle against causality and the forces of nature themselves. Berserk is a book made by an artist named Kintaro Murata. It's one of my favorite books I've ever seen in my life. It's aesthetically pleasing. It's got some of the most beautiful hand-drawn panels I've ever seen in my life. The textures, and cross-hatching, stippling, and for anyone who doesn't really know art talk, the way it's shaded, it looks amazing. Each panel exudes emotions that no other book could ever make a reader feel. Each situation feels realer by the next time that it happens, and the main character himself, how much he struggles. It just shows how a shonen is completely different from the seinen genre. Seinen meaning a dark fantasy, so this book is not for the light of heart. If you don't like gratuitous violence or blood and gore here and there, some elements of horror, just not the book for you. So our story starts. Canonically, the book doesn't start in the same place where the story should. Canonically, our story starts with a ragtag bunch of mercenaries who work for Midland Law. So they're on the good guys' side of things in their perspective. Take my advice, no one's ever a good guy. You're just fighting for your own cause. So as they go through villages that have been past pillaged by people who went through within their time, they find a tree of corpses. And I can't tell you in exact details how the tree of corpses was displayed or could face demonetization. But from this tree of corpses is born a child. It had been 3 days prior that the last bunch of mercenaries had come through there, so the leader of the mercenaries' wife, who's unable to have children, she's infertile, or barren, for lack of a better term, sees the child kicking and screaming, decides that she wants to adopt it, giving him the name Guts for his long survival alone. 3 days. It's crazy for a baby to survive without food or water. So the story plays out events as Guts grows up in some of the worst situations possible for anyone throughout an existence, thus tailoring his personality to be a cold-hearted until in the future he meets people who could in turn warm his heart up. The story itself is about 343 chapters, but they only come out maybe once every 3 months. So that's one of the downsides to being a big fan of Berserk. Often the mangaka is sick and on hiatus, so we pray for his health. We also pray for chapters. So if you're watching this, Kento, you know how we feel. So by the time that Guts is a 9-year-old boy, he's been through many battles by this time. He's seen many scenes. He's seen people have their guts ripped out, their heads chopped off, and completely disemboweled. By this time, though, he's grown up. His father figure, Gambino, has been the best soldier since he could remember, can't fight anymore. And his mother passed away from the Black Plague when he was 5. So there's no hope of guidance in his life at the moment. So he lives his day-to-day life as a mercenary as he thinks that his life should be. So as he grows up, more and more Gambino becomes bitter because he'd rather have his wife, obviously, than this child that he had nothing to do with. Which is a bad perspective to have, but some people, just evil. One night in a drunken stupor, he comes into Gus's tent, threatening him, telling him he should switch spots with Shisui, and he should have been the one who died. So, in a fit of anger, he tries to attack Guts with a sword, but him being drunk and having the underhand and him being handicapped now, only has one leg. He misses and he falls on Guts' blade and loses his life. So Guts is chased out the camp by all the other mercenaries who think that he just senselessly killed the person that raised him when, in all honesty, he was just defending himself. So little things like this are the events that I'm talking about that transpire to tailor the type of person that he becomes eventually, that you'll learn to know him as the Black Swordsman. trust me, I'm not gonna give you too much of the plot so you guys can read it for yourself because I really recommend this. It's probably one of the greatest mangas I've ever read. It's read. It's been written in history. It's amazing. So as he grows up, he becomes a mercenary himself after running away from the camp. And this is where the gist of the story will start and where my summary actually is going to come to an end. So he's about 14 now. And on the battlefield, the Midland is still trying to be, what could I say, seized by enemy forces. Guts grew up in this his whole life. So it's just another day in the office to him. To the battlefield, we find someone named Bazuzo. Bazuzo is known to slay 30 men in battle, so he's very cocky. Come on, anybody who can swing around an axe for like 20 minutes and cop 20 dudes is going to be cocky. So as he challenges the whole line of soldiers on the other side of the mercenaries, one steps forward, a small boy. So he laughs about it, he jokes about it, obviously thinking the small boy can't do anything or touch him. But that's where he had a problem. You must always be alert on the battlefield. They get into it, they have their little fight. Gus bobs and he weaves, loses a helmet, but he mortally wounds Bazuzo. As Bazuzo cries for mercy, like every person that he had slayed before. Guts doesn't grant him it and ends his life to get the biggest bounty that the leader knight could give to anyone, because that was the problem. Once Bazuzo was slayed, the rest of his army dispatched. Guts goes about his way to find his next job, next meal, next place to sleep. But as he's walking, he's intercepted by what he didn't know were the group that hired Bazuzo as a mercenary. He didn't know that he wasn't a leader. Just like him, he's just another pawn in the game of chess. So a specific officer in the band of Hawks named Corcus decides that he's going to start a fight with Guts. Starting kind of a melee situation, a battle royale, where every member of the band of Hawks that feels like they can steal their medal or that they can show up and really give Guts a run for his money decides that they want to come out the woodworks to try to fight, which ends up being a battle between Guts and another main character that you'll find out about soon named Casca. She's the second in command of the band of Hawks. She's one of the strongest ones. So her fighting Guts and her not winning and being no avail shows the rest of the band of the Hawks that they can't do much. So they wait for their leader to come. And graciously appears the Hawk himself, Griffith. You're going to learn this name a lot if you decide to pick up this series, because he's the main reason. He's the driving force forward through the rest of the manga. Like I said, the manga doesn't start off canonically, but they take a step back, like a butterfly effect situation. So you won't see all this once you first start it. It'll take, I think, maybe 2 or 3 chapters until you finally start to get into the backstory of the Band of the Hawks and the relationship to Guts and how he grew up and all the crazy things that he went through during the time. So it comes down to it. Guts loses his battle, his small duel against Griffith, and he's wounded. He's stabbed in the ribs, so he passes out from blood loss. He goes, he's wrapped up and he's taken back to their camp. He goes to sleep for a few days. And when he wakes up, he's in the camp of all the enemies who he just fought a few days ago. He doesn't know days have passed, but he's hostile off top. Automatically out the gate, he's trying to catch Fade, and he's like, where's my sword at? You know, they're not going to give him his sword, obviously, from him being hostile. So he takes a small walk around with Griffith, and Griffith tells him a thing or two about what he has and what he's trying to do and what his dream is. Guts, being the person that he is, he wants to do things his way all the time. He only goes by his ideals. He's a my way or the highway type of guy. So he decides, nah, I don't care about your dream. I just want to go about my business. So they make a bet. Whoever can win a head-up Fade, and by that I mean a fight, whether a duel, fist, sword, whatever, as long as fist to cuffs, straight up. Whoever can get the upper hand on the other person gets what they desire. Griffith, he wants Guts to join the Band of the Hawks because he can see how strong he is in his brash nature and how adamant he is about winning a battle could help them take the kingdom, because that's what they want to do. They want to seize Midland for themselves. And Guts, he just wants to go about his business and continue the life that he led. In short, he loses his battle. He ends up getting his shoulder dislocated, thus entering him into the Band of Hawks and teaching him a few semblances of camaraderie, family, and love that he never experienced in his life before. But I'm gonna let you find out the rest for yourself because this is when it starts to get crazy. But I just want you to read it because it's got to be a surprise. I can't spoil it. Like I said, that is Berserk by Kentaro Murata. It comes out once every 3 months, roughly. That's a rough estimation. Sometimes it doesn't come out for a whole year, or it might not come out for a whole 7 months. But it's honestly worth the wait every time it does. Even the short chapters are beautiful. They're all beautifully drawn, beautifully shaded. The story is amazing. It always keeps you intrigued and keeps you inside, and it's a driving force forward, I swear, in manga or anime culture. And I don't want to see any comments about how the 2017 Berserk anime is garbage. We all know it's garbage. Don't give your manga or your baby, your precious work to studios that don't care about it. That's it in long or short. Well, that's it for today. That was a brief summary on Berserk by Kentaro Murata, my favorite manga of the time at the moment. Once I find another one that tops that, I'll be back with another video, But like and subscribe. I want to see you leave some comments about video mangas that you want me to talk about or animes that you want me to talk about. Comics as well, talk about any form of media like that. And I'll pull up tomorrow so you can see a interview with a horror author, Teresa Jacobs. It's gonna be amazing. And come back next week if you want to see another great, amazing, beautiful, based, dope, witty description on some great mangas and anime. Because that's all I do. I promise. All right, y'all.